Hello everyone. My food secret. Today, 10 fabulous recipes. Gluten-free. Let's get started. Rolled cookies with a rich filling, gluten-free. And chocolate for spreading with nuts. Ingredients: 1 cup gluten-free flour, 100 grams powdered sugar, 100 grams butter, half a teaspoon of baking powder, 1 egg, 1 teaspoon vanilla extract, 1 teaspoon oil, and only if necessary, a teaspoon of cold water. For the filling, date spread, ground nuts, and chocolate for spreading, or any other filling you like. For the coating, powdered sugar. Preparation: I put all the ingredients in a bowl, except the cold water, and knead until a uniform dough. If the dough has not come together, add the cold water and continue kneading until a uniform dough. I divide the dough in half. I place 1 dough on baking paper. I place baking paper over the dough and roll the dough into a thin sheet, but not very thin. I peel the baking paper off the dough. I straighten around an elongated rectangle. I spread date spread on the dough. No to the end. I sprinkle ground nuts on top. Using baking paper, I roll the dough to the end. I cut at slightly equal intervals diagonally. And place on a baking sheet with baking paper. In this way, I also prepare the second part of the dough. From the leftover dough, I prepare the third part. I spread chocolate for spreading and sprinkle ground nuts on top. Put in a preheated oven. Israel, 180 degrees. United States, 350 degrees. And bake for about 35 minutes until the cookies are slightly golden. Remove from the oven, place on a wire rack, and cool completely. I sprinkle powdered sugar on top. my food secret. Subscribe to my channel. I hope you enjoy the marathon. Let's continue to recipe number 2. A flourless almond and coconut cake. Ingredients: 2 cups almond flour, a cup of ground coconut, a cup of sugar, 4 eggs, zest of 1 orange, a 1/4 cup of orange juice, a 1/4 cup of oil, a teaspoon of extract vanilla, a very little salt, almond for decoration, preparation. I put in a bowl the almond flour, the coconut oil and salt, mix well, and set aside. In another bowl, I put the sugar, add orange zest, and mix well. I add the rest of the ingredients and mix well. I add the bowl with the almond flour and mix well until a uniform mixture. I grease a small pan. A larger pan is possible. The cake will be low. I pour the mixture into the pan. I sprinkle almonds over. Put in a preheated oven. Israel, 180 degrees. United States, 350 degrees. And bake for about 35 minutes. Check with a toothpick, it comes out dry. I take the cake out of the oven and cool completely. My food secret. Subscribe to my channel. I hope you enjoy the marathon. Let's continue to recipe number 3. A rich gluten-free almond cake. Dough ingredients: 5 eggs, separated yolk and white, 90 grams of white chocolate, 40-gram butter cut into cubes, 2 tablespoons of sweet cream for whipping, 1 tablespoon of sugar, and another 4 tablespoons of sugar, 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract, a very little salt, 3 tablespoons of almond flour, 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, half a teaspoon of oil. First layer ingredients: 40 grams of chocolate, 10 grams of butter, 80 grams of ground nuts, whipped cream ingredients: about 300 grams of sweet cream for whipping, 1 teaspoon of instant vanilla, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and coconut for decoration. Preparing the whipped cream. I shake the sweet cream for whipping. Put it in a bowl and mix a little. I add the vanilla extract and vanilla instant and mix until the whipped cream is firm. I wrap the bowl in plastic wrap and put it in the fridge for at least an hour. Preparing the dough. I put the white chocolate in a bowl. I add the butter and the sweet cream. I put in the microwave for 30 seconds. Mix well until it is a uniform mixture. I put a little boiling water in a bowl and place the bowl with the chocolate on top and set aside. In another bowl, I put the yolks and mix a little. I gradually add the tablespoon of sugar and continue to mix. I add the oil and continue to mix. I add salt and vanilla extract and continue to mix until a lighter color. I add the corn flour and almond flour and mix well. I add the bowl with the chocolate to the mixture and mix well. In another bowl, I put the egg whites and mix a little. I gradually add the 4 tablespoons of sugar and mix until a stable foam forms. I add the egg white foam gradually to the mixture and mix in the form of a wrapper. I put baking paper on a baking sheet and grease it. Pour the mixture into the baking sheet and level it. Pay attention that the mixture is liquid. I put it in a preheated oven. Israel, 180 degrees. United States, 350 degrees. And bake for about 20 minutes until a nice golden color. Remove from the oven and cool completely. Preparing the first layer. I melt the chocolate in the microwave for 30 seconds. I put the chocolate in a bowl Add the butter and mix well. I add the ground nuts and mix until evenly mixed. I put a cake base on the work surface and place it on top of a bottomless baking pan. I put the chocolate with the nuts in the baking pan and level it. I remove the pan and set the cake base aside. I place baking paper on the pan. Place a wire rack or baking pan over it and turn it over. Peel the baking paper off the cake. The edges along the length of the cake I cut with a knife slightly diagonally. The edges along the width of the cake I cut straight. I put baking paper on the cake and turn it over to the other side and divide the cake into 5 equal parts. If you want the cake to be less high and wider, I cut more parts. I put about half of the whipped cream on the cake and spread it in an even layer. I roll out the first part of the dough and place the rest of the dough layers. On the bottom of the cake in the center, I wrap around the first layer and press down a little. I remove the rest of the chocolate from the bottom of the cake and set aside. I fill the final edge of the dough with whipped cream and smooth it out. I put whipped cream on top of the cake and smooth it out. I fill the whipped cream around the cake and smooth. The remaining chocolate, I sprinkle it on top and press down a little. I coat the cake all around with coconut. I place the cake on a plate and put it in the refrigerator for at least an hour. my food secret. Subscribe to my channel. I hope you enjoy the marathon. Let's continue to recipe number 4. A perfect gluten-free Swiss roll. Ingredients: 4 eggs, half a cup of sugar, 1 tablespoon of oil, 2 heaping tablespoons of corn flour, 2 tablespoons of instant vanilla, half a teaspoon of baking powder. Filling ingredients: jam, it doesn't matter which one, and ground coconut. You can fill it with whatever you want. Preparation: I put the eggs in the mixer bowl and sugar and mix on high speed for about 4 minutes until a lighter color. And set aside. I put the corn flour in a tall glass. Add instant vanilla, baking powder, and mix well. And add to the mixer bowl. And mix well. I add the oil and mix. I wet a large wide pan with water. I put baking paper and grease it a little. I pour the mixture into the pan. I straighten it into an even layer. Put it in the preheated oven. Israel, 180 degrees. United States, 350 degrees. And bake for about 8 to 10 minutes. Check with a toothpick if it comes out dry. I take the pan out of the oven. Place on a cooling rack for about 5 minutes. I turn the pan on baking paper. I peel off the baking paper. Spread jam in an even layer. Sprinkle over coconut. Roll the cake all the way around. Transfer to a plate. Spread jam over the entire cake. Sprinkle over coconut. Cut the edges of the cake. Put the cake in the refrigerator for about half an hour. Cut into slices. Place on a plate. You can keep the cake in the refrigerator. My food secret. Subscribe to my channel. Let's continue to recipe number 5. A gluten-free coconut cake. Ingredients: 3 large eggs, half a cup of sugar, 1 teaspoon vanilla extract, 1 cup of sweet cream for whipping, 1 cup of coconut flour, a pinch of salt, 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Preparation. I break an egg in a small bowl. Check that there is no blood. The egg is clean. And transfer to the large bowl. This is how I check the 3 eggs. And mix. I add the sugar and mix. I add the vanilla extract and mix. I add the sweet cream gradually. And mix. I add the coconut flour. And mix. It is advisable to filter the coconut flour in a sieve and add to the bowl. I filtered first. I continue to mix until a uniform mixture. Pay attention to the texture of the batter. The batter is not too liquid. If you have not reached this texture, add a little milk and mix and set aside. I take baking paper, a little larger than the size of the pan, preferably a 20 by 20 pan, and cut off the excess. I fold the baking paper in 4. And cut in half in the middle and put it in the pan like this. I grease the baking paper a little. I pour the batter into the pan. And straighten. Put in a preheated oven. Israel 180 degrees. United States 350 degrees. And bake for about 40 minutes until the cake is browned on all sides. And on top, I take the cake out of the oven, place on a wire rack, and cool completely. I sprinkle powdered sugar on top. The cake is so delicious and soft that you will not stop nibbling. My food secret. Subscribe to my channel. I hope you enjoy the marathon. Let's continue to recipe number 6. A lemon cake with nuts, gluten-free. Ingredients: 6 eggs separated into whites and yolks, half a cup of potato flour, half a cup of gluten-free flour, 1 cup of sugar, very little salt, half a teaspoon of baking powder, 3 tablespoons of squeezed lemon juice, lemon zest, and a 1/4 cup of water, 1 teaspoon of oil, 1 cup of ground nuts. For the coating, powdered sugar. Preparation: I put the yolks in a bowl and mix a little. I gradually add half a cup of sugar and continue to mix until a lighter color. I add the lemon zest, the lemon juice, water, baking powder, salt, and oil, and mix well until a uniform mixture. I add the potato flour and gluten-free flour and mix well until a uniform mixture. And set aside. In another bowl, I put the egg whites and mix a little. I gradually add half a cup of sugar and continue to mix until a stable foam. I add the bowl of egg whites to the bowl with the yolk mixture and mix in a wrap until evenly mixed. And I add the ground nuts and mix until evenly mixed. I grease the baking pan. I pour the mixture into the baking pan. Place in preheated oven. Israel, 180 degrees. United States, 350 degrees. Bake for about 50 minutes. Check with a toothpick, which comes out dry. And the cake is golden on top. I put the cake on a wire rack and cool completely. I detach the cake from the sides and release the cake from the pan. I sprinkle powdered sugar on the cake. My food secret. Subscribe to my channel. I hope you enjoy the marathon. Let's continue to recipe number 7. A rich poppy seed cake, gluten-free. Ingredients: 5 eggs, 3/4 of a cup of sugar, 3/4 of a cup of orange juice, 1/2 cup of oil, 1 cup of matzah flour, gluten-free, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 cup of coconut, 1 cup of ground poppy seeds, 1 cup of broken nuts, half a cup of chopped chocolate. For topping, 200 grams of sweet cream for whipping, 100 grams of chocolate cut into cubes, half a cup of broken nuts for decoration. Preparation. I put the eggs in a bowl and mix a little. I gradually add the sugar and continue to mix until light in color and fluffy. And set aside. In another bowl, I put the rest of the ingredients and mix well until a uniform mixture. I add the bowl of eggs and mix in the form of a wrapper until a uniform mixture. I grease the baking pan. Pour the mixture into the baking pan. Place in preheated oven. Israel, 180 degrees. United States, 350 degrees. Bake for about 35 minutes. Check with a toothpick, which comes out dry. Place on a wire rack and cool completely. I put the sweet cream in a small pot on the gas and stir. Add the chocolate and stir. Bring to almost a boil. Turn off the gas and continue to stir until a uniform color. Place on a wire rack and cool until lukewarm. When the cake has cooled, I detach it from the sides of the pan. I place it over a baking pan or plate and turn over and release the cake from the pan. I mix the chocolate with the whipping cream well and pour over the cake and around. I sprinkle on top with broken nuts. Put the cake in the refrigerator for at least 2 hours. My food secret. Subscribe to my channel. I hope you enjoy the marathon. Let's continue to recipe number 8. Delicious and healthy. Gluten-free. Date ball candy. Ingredients: 20 small dates or 10 large dates, 1 cup of Sheba fox, thin, 2 tablespoons cocoa, 1 teaspoon vanilla extract, 1 cup boiling water, ground coconut for coating. Preparation. I cut the date in half. Remove the seed and cut into small pieces. And transfer to a bowl. I strain the cocoa and add to the bowl. I add the boiling water. And using a fork, I mash the dates. I add the oats and vanilla extract and mix well until a uniform mixture. Pay attention how the mixture looks. I transfer to a small bowl. I wrap the bowl in plastic wrap and put it in the fridge for half an hour for the mixture to set. After half an hour, I take the bowl out of the fridge. I take some of the mixture and form a ball. I put the ball in the bowl of ground coconut and coat the ball on all sides. Place on a plate at small intervals. You can form balls of any size you want. From this quantity, I made 20 balls. I put the plate in the freezer for an hour. After an hour, I took out the plate. To serve unfrozen. The candy's so delicious that you won't stop snacking on it. Something sweet is very easy to prepare. My food secret. Subscribe to my channel. I hope you enjoy the marathon. Let's continue to recipe number 9. Gluten-free Maamoul cookies filled with dates and nuts. Dough ingredients: 180 grams of potato flour, 50 grams of all-purpose flour, 100 grams of butter cut into cubes, 30 grams of corn flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 4 tablespoons of sugar, 1 egg. Filling ingredients: 200 grams of ground nuts, 4 tablespoons of sugar, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, a very little ground cloves, not required, zest from 1 orange, 1 tablespoon of orange juice, 3 drops of rose water, 50 grams of crushed dates, powdered sugar for coating. Preparation. Dough preparation. I put the potato flour in a bowl. Add the almond flour and butter and mix until a crumbly mixture is formed. I add the rest of the dough ingredients and mix until a uniform mixture is formed. Pay attention, the dough is very sticky. Transfer to a smaller bowl. I wrap the bowl in plastic wrap. Put in the fridge for at least 2 hours. Preparing nut filling. I put all the filling ingredients in a bowl, except the dates, and mix well until a uniform. Set aside the date filling. I put the dates in the microwave for 10 seconds. Transfer to a bowl and crush a little. I add 2 tablespoons of the nut filling to the dates and mix well until a uniform mixture is formed. I take some of the mixture, roll into a ball, and place on a plate. And set aside. I take the dough out of the fridge. Place a baking sheet with baking paper on the work surface. Put a little corn flour in your hands. Take some of the dough and roll into a ball. Creates a kind of bowl. Filled with nut filling. Pinch the edges, and the rest of the dough, I take it off. Roll it into a ball and place it on the baking sheet. For the date filling, I put a little corn flour in my hands. I take some of the dough, roll it into a ball, and flatten it. Place dates in the center and pinch the edges. Take the rest of the dough and roll it into a ball. I press the top a little with a fork to create a different shape for the date cookies. This is how I finish all the dough. Once I fill it with dates, and once I fill it with nuts. Put it in a preheated oven. Israel, 180 degrees. United States, 350 degrees. Bake for 25 minutes until a beautiful golden color. Remove from the oven. Place on a wire rack. Sprinkle powdered sugar on top. The cookies are very delicious. You won't stop snacking. My food secret. Subscribe to my channel. I hope you enjoy the marathon. Let's continue to recipe number 10. Gluten-free almond and coconut cookies. Ingredients: 4 egg whites, 1 cup almond flour, half a cup natural almond, 3/4 of a cup of gluten-free matzah flour, half a cup ground coconut, half a cup sugar, half a teaspoon baking powder, a little cinnamon, half a cup orange juice, half a cup almond syrup, 1 tablespoon of oil. Preparation. I put the egg whites in a bowl. Mix until foamy and almost stable. I gradually add the sugar. Mix until foamy and stable. I add the almond flour and mix in a wrapper. I add natural almond flour and mix in a wrapper. I add the matzo flour and baking powder and mix in a wrapper. I add the almond syrup and mix in a wrapper. I add the coconut and mix in a wrapper. I add the cinnamon, oil, and the orange juice. Mix in a wrapper until the mixture is uniform. Pay attention to the texture. I take a tall glass and put a piping bag with a medium-sized nozzle inside. I put some of the mixture inside the piping bag. I put baking paper on a baking pan and a little grease. I sprinkle cookies on the baking paper in intervals. From this amount, I made 30 cookies. Put in a preheated oven. Israel, 180 degrees. United States, 350 degrees. And bake for about 25 minutes. The cookies are so delicious that you won't stop snacking. My food secret. Subscribe to my channel. Don't miss out on delicious recipes. I hope you enjoy the marathon. Good luck.